Greetings, I am Darkling and this is Ark Survival Evolved. Today we'll be tackling the storage system that I use. I had somebody in Discord ask about how I build it, so today's tutorial will be explaining the process I go through. It's a fairly simple design, so it shouldn't take too long to get through, so stick around and hopefully you'll learn something. Okay, some of you may recognize this area from one of my previous tutorials. This is where I did the self-supporting ramp video. I fleshed out the top so it's actually roughly the correct shape that it was actually designed to be, but I'm going to use this space to demonstrate the storage method I use. MidnightVictoria, a friend of mine, she asked how I put my storage together. We'd done a stream with Daman, Weylin, and we'd gone through one of my bases, and at that point she saw my storage stacking method, so she wants to know how I put it together. I had actually planned to do this video quite some time ago, but I just never quite got round to it. So today we're going to tackle that. I can finally get my butt into gear. So basically what I'm doing is I'm making a one wall deep pit. Now you will need to be able to snap lower to get the lower snap in there, but a lot of builds, it depends on, like, I mean, you could do this with stacked foundations, just have a row of foundations there with other foundations stacked around it, whatever you have to do. The build that she saw was actually up in the air, so there was quite a lot, oops, trust me to fall off, there was actually quite a bit of space below to actually work with. Mostly you only need that one space down just to fit the storage in. Now I'm going to need some more walls. I didn't bring enough with me. Okay, so first things first, we're going to need to be able to get in and out of the hole. So let's just put a ramp down, and I'm going to place a ladder. Now if you don't know how to free place, this is how you get yourself into a position where you're facing the same direction as the foundation runs, so you're perfectly aligned with that wall in front of you. Now I find that it can be a little bit problematic placing it. My mouse is pretty sensitive, so if I try and just look down I end up with moving in a different direction. You kind of got to finagle it to whatever works for you. I generally free place these, so that's me free placing it. I will see how it's aligned. The gamma has dropped. Okay, so I'll snap some more on here and then we'll see how misaligned it actually is. So the further along it goes, if it's out, you'll notice it more and more. So that's actually pretty good. Now I generally, like I said, free place most of these. The ladder trick is really great for a lot of projects, but I generally don't use it. So I'm gonna, at each end, whoops, don't need to jump off. I need to snap these to the lower. So this is gonna bring us some height over our storage. Now this particular side I'm actually gonna do in vaults. Normally I would just stick a whole bay of storage lockers or a whole bay of vaults, but in this case I'm going to do half and half. Now when you're placing these ones, you can, the vaults, you can use the same ladder trick as I used with the other one. However, there is a little bit of a problem. So when you try and place, we'll go over here. That's not the one we want, just that one. So as you can see, the closest you can get to the front edge is almost halfway into that ceiling. So if you don't have a ceiling there, you can get it back further. So if you're going to use the ladder technique, you're going to need to remove some of the space to actually be able to do it. Me, I'm not really that kind of person. Like I said, I don't generally use the ladder snap. I will usually just place like this, and then I'll test how straight it is by placing a few more. It doesn't take much to pick them up. So, oops. That looks pretty straight. I might be a little bit on the wobbly. How far along? You're gonna let me snap over the top? No, okay, it won't. That looks pretty straight. I don't think we'll get much better than that. So I'll have to replace this section. Oh, actually, I'm gonna need to replace the wall first. I'd rather place the wall. Ooh, that's actually a little bit too far forward. Okay, so never mind. We'll pick that up and replace it. So I want to get this right for you guys, so you can see what it looks like when it's done properly. I'm going to angle it there, fairly close to the rail. That looks a bit better. Again though, it looks like I might be on the wobbly. Well, that could be okay actually. The wall in front of it, it's not intersecting. No, that's fine. Okay, I am still getting a little bit of bleed through because of the angle of that snap. I'm not dropping it off the ceiling in this case, I'm snapping it onto the roof below. We'll put the triangle back into place. Now on the side, obviously, as you can see, the railing is actually a little bit lower than the vaults. It's not lower than the storage boxes though. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to run a catwalk across the middle. No, that one there. You're going to have them go through the vaults. I think I've overlapped one of those snaps. Okay, so now what I'll do is I will take another vault, and we're actually placing this on the catwalk now. And I'm going to use the front of this other vault to try and get my angle right. So it's roughly in line with that. A little bit out is not too much of a hassle. A lot out, well, that's going to be a lot different. So I want it roughly in line. That looks like it's close enough. I'm going to then place the next one. Maybe another few. Now it's probably going to look a little bit funny with a mixture of the vaults and storage in here. That is actually going to allow me to place that one, so I'll see that alignment. That looks pretty perfect. You can put a ceiling instead of the catwalk. I don't recommend it. What was I in here for again? I am after. What am I after? Storage. That's what I'm after. Oh, they're all in my hotbar. What an idiot. Okay, again, for this we're going to have to take up the side and place this in. So, like I said, you can use the ladder trick if you've got somewhere to connect to. I'm more of a fan of doing this. And I will compare it to the bottom one, so they're roughly lined up. I tell you what, if you actually get these misaligned with the bottom ones, that's going to annoy you more than anything. Any other kind of misplacement, you'll get kind of annoyed that it might have occurred, but... Okay, so I'm actually short one storage, that's fine. I don't really need it. Okay, I'm going to grab some more walls. And what's left of those? Just make sure we've got enough. Now, depending on what kind of storage you're doing, I could now put a half wall on there and that's enough to cap the storage box setup. But because these ones are a lot taller, you're going to need a lot taller. So at this end, you're actually going to need a whole wall, and then we can run that across the top. Again, like I said, I don't normally mix these two up, so it won't look quite the same as what I often run. And from there we're going to have to back the back side, and we're going to run a line across the front here. Getting a little bit of stick through there, but it's not too bad. Not enough to really want me to go through and redo it. That works for me. Okay, and we'll put a back on this now. Now, you'll notice here that there is a little bit of a gap. Don't leave too much of a gap around the back of this kind of storage, because you can fall in here. So be warned. I've actually done storage before where I've run the ramps along the front, so you could actually step down into that. However, it depends on your placement of the storage below, because if it intersects too much, sometimes it'll actually prevent you from being able to access it. So you've got to be paying attention to that. Actually, I'm going to swap this around and make this easier for myself. I'll match up the railings with the sides. Oh, there's that extra catwalk. Actually, I'm going to leave that in there in case those vaults are... No, they're not. No, that is actually... Pay attention. Lower snap point, lower snap point. Always make sure you get the... Like, once you've built for a while, you'll know which snap points are important. But it pays to pay attention to what you're snapping to, because if you fix problems before they occur, it's a lot easier than dealing with the problem later on. Now, is that actually going to face the other way, is it? Actually, I'm going to pick these two up and place them the same way from the ceiling down. Just have to go to the side a little bit there. So, as you can see, it's nice and covered. Now, I'd probably go through and change these to half walls around the back. I will sometimes leave them in place for the effect. I've done it a few times where I've left them I've done them all the way around the top and left a gap there. But I will leave the front ones as just railings because I think that trims it off quite nicely. So as you can see, you can come in here and you can access the front vaults as well as the ones stacked on top, just depending on obviously where you're looking, which is, yeah. Sometimes I'll stick pillars up the sides. That actually tidies it up quite nicely. There's much you can do if you end up with space above. Depending on how high your room is, you can do quite a lot with it. I've actually got a setup where I have a greenhouse above that, and it's just a glass roof on top, so that really works out well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you why you have to be careful doing this with a try. Now everything will fit. You might have to be a bit tight with a vault depending on what you're actually wanting to do. Sometimes if you have to sit it back further onto the try, you might have it intersect a wall. It's not too much of a worry, depends on how many you're trying to squeeze in, but my recommendation is you do it on the smaller side of the triangle. So we'll place that in there, and you can then obviously go across. Hugs it nicely. If you set it back ever so slightly like that, maybe a little bit further, you shouldn't have any overlap on this side. However, if you actually do it the other way, you're going to have problems. Now obviously if you want to get it hug against the wall, you end up with it sticking out that side. If you place it so that it's set to the back line, you end up with a hole, because obviously you'd set this into the ground like over there. You end up with a hole there, and I've trialed this kind of setup before and put a pillar here. It still often allows enough space to fall into and you get stuck. Obviously it's not a good thing to have happen, so if you do this kind of stacking on the try, make sure you do it from this side, and you will have to use a ceiling because the catwalk obviously won't sit at the right angle. But if you do it with a ceiling, it will stick out quite a lot further. I can't actually get a snap in there to actually show you, but because it comes out to the front of the ceiling space, you end up with quite a thick line of ceiling through the middle, and I gotta say it looks a lot better if you can avoid that. So I will end this tutorial here. Obviously that's that covered. I'll actually cut to my new Terra Nova storage, and I'll show you the fact that I've actually got it in play and show you what I've done with it there. Okay, so we're coming in here at my Aquaticus base, and I'll show you the storage system I've got. So this is actually a bridge that runs from the mainland to Kano Island. So I've actually got my hub down here. I put it, as you can see, there's glass all the way around the top here. It's actually part of the greenhouse that I've got above my storage. So as you can see, I have done the same storage in this base as my other builds. I actually put the railings along the top there to add a nice little effect, and you can actually see the plants growing through on the other two sides. See, that one there has a ramp going through behind it, and in this case I've put little gaps through so you can actually see. So I can show you here. Just in this space I've got all my crop plots set up. On one of the other sides that has the other lot of greenhouse, I put some dung beetles in cages if they haven't rendered out. So yeah, as you can see, I do use the storage quite a bit. I really love this kind of setup. I always keep the same kind of storage setup as well. So I have a particular entrance side. So it's this one on this case, and this is all my building supplies. For me, building is the most important, so I organize my building accordingly, my storage accordingly. Yeah, if you use this storage method, I'm sure you'll like it. It is really cool to be able to keep everything nice and easy to handle. This one here, I didn't actually lower the walls over the top of the vaults like I did on the other, and these are actually sitting a little bit further forward, I believe. My other builds, I usually build them with a cover over the front just for the effect, but as you can see, you can do a fair bit with them, and you can fit quite a few in a small space. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Remember to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy your building. Take care.